Hey everybody, I am back. This is Dr. Schulman, and we're going to be going over this other part of assessment called recognizing misconceptions and reteaching. Now, this piece, there's not like stuff in it, really. You just have to be able to anticipate students making mistakes and thinking about where their errors are, anticipating errors, understanding where they mess up and making a change. The best ways to do this are to be organized, as well as to actually look through their assessments and see what everybody did wrong. So I'm going to share my screen right now, and I'm just going to talk to you a little bit. Uh, I'm here, Math for Teachers 1 and 2. We're in reteaching strategies, which is basically reteaching and anticipation. So before we jump into this one, which is has information. So to reteach, when do you reteach? How do you reteach? All of this stuff to me, we'll start with reteaching. Reteaching is a judgment call. If you do, it's all about being flexible. It's a judgment call and being flexible. All right, what do I mean by this? So if you give a test or a quiz and everybody fails it, they didn't learn what you're supposed to learn. So how can we reteach? A good way we can reteach is to use different learning modalities. And if you've seen my lessons, which you've been looking at a lot of them, they're all kind of different. Some people learn visually, that's with their eyes. Some people learn auditorially, that's with their ears, listening. So some people can see it, some people need to hear it, some people need to write to learn. Some people just need to be writing down the maths, like procedurally. That's kind of what I call it. I don't know why I can't spell today. Procedurally, so they just need to be writing out the steps. Other times they have to do kinesthetics. I don't really know about touching, but I guess there could be touching where they get their hands on it, touching the materials. All right. So I'll give you, so when you're reteaching, you should be flexible. You try to just show them or tell them, like show them, like, so learning visually is showing them. That's what it means. Auditorially is telling them, but telling isn't always teaching. And that's something you should always keep in mind. Telling is not always teaching. All right. Some of them might just need to be writing the steps out. A good way to think about this is what are things I've done with writing? I've given them the notes and had them write the steps. A really good one for this is my log one. I know logs are scary, but I think it's a good example. Where's my log notes? So many log things. It's insane. I could always have it in a different place. But it's basically, I just had all the log problems written out for them in a bunch of different ways. So that way the students could see it, see all the steps. So it's like, it was a very procedural, is it in here? Here it is. So I'll share this with you guys just to give you an example. So I had that written down, an example with every step and the ways how to write it, like every step that was happening for all these different types of log problems, and then they got to practice for themselves. So this was one that I did that was like really useful for my students. So this was a good procedural one that we did. Another good procedural is the one where they have to justify, sorry. where they actually have to justify their steps. And you saw that with the algebra lesson where they had to write out every reason why they were doing it. So procedural is good. Kinesthetic is great. I've never done this one, but I've had students who love the dance transversal where they jump around to all of them. Somebody I was training, they absolutely love this dance transversal, but everybody's different, you know? This is a geometry coach. What a fancy website. Um, but you put the tape on the board on the ground and students dance around to it, which is cool. So that's a kinesthetic one. Um, oops. Touching materials, you can think about geo boards for this, where students actually get to get their hands on the shape. So a geo board is really good for this, where students can actually get to hold the materials or give them a model of the shape. So it's basically just trying to give them other options. The best thing about math is there's not only is there there are multiple ways to solve a problem algebraically, graphically, geometrically, but there are even more ways to teach it. So geoboards are great. See what I mean. I still use geoboards. I think they're awesome. This is everything about it. They can create the shapes on it and actually get to work with it. I think it's just rubber bands on a bunch of spikes. That's all it is. Okay, so these are all different modalities. Kinesthetics, maybe your students need to move to learn it. Maybe they need to, and one other big piece, the last piece I most forgot is teaching them through gesturing. Gesturing is really good. I've written an entire paper on gesturing if you want to read it. But I'm sure you probably don't want to. So I'll explain what it is. Here's a synthesis of a ton of gesturing research that I wrote. I did it back when I was a student. So here's a ton of stuff about gesturing. You want to see a bunch of research behind it. But gesturing is when are looking at x squared, they raise both of their arms and it makes a touchdown. If you want to show positive slope, everybody's arms go like this. This is y equals x, positive slope. Negative slope, they all go like that for, y equals 0, y equals 3, or y equals -2. Zero slope, could have everybody gesture by going boom, like this with their arms. Vertical slope, they could raise their arm up like this, it could be like rocket liftoff. Having the student come up with the name for it. This is like x equals -2 or undefined slope. That could be a really good way they learn. They learn the hand signal. So every time you write x equals -2, they shoot up. If you say y equals 3x minus 2, they know it's positive. So you can come up with a word for this, right? But that's the gesturing idea. So gesturing is teaching them through hand movements or body movements. They can't move their hands or they can't move their body. You could think of other ways, but I think of a really good way to reteach is just using a different modality. A lot of times, other modalities include, besides all those ones I just showed, you can do partner work, group work, discussions. So discussions, I didn't have vocally up here, so I should have vocally. Sometimes they just need to be able to say it. So what are callbacks that I've used? So certain callbacks that I've used with students are That Drake song was popular. That's how old I am. So it was like start at the bottom and now we're here. So that's like the y equals mx plus b. We start at the bottom, we start at the b, now we're here. So they start at the bottom. So if it's y equals 3x minus 2, we start at the bottom, the origin, now we're here. That was a way that was a callback that I did in my class that students really liked. Um, but it could be anything vocal, it just having them say it is probably easier for them to remember it. Like something that students always mess up is 3 to the 0 power, that equals 1. So you could be like rise to 0, everybody goes 1, rise to 0, 1, rise to 0, 1. These callbacks are really useful as different ways to teach it. The whole idea is to be flexible. Not every student is going to just want to learn visually, auditorily, vocally, procedurally, kinesthetically. Sorry, they should be in the same tense. Touching materials, so sensorily, sensing, right? But basically, you have to make these decisions. You have to determine when to reteach and how to reteach. If you're just writing everything on the board and it's not working, it's time for a different piece. That's why that reflection thing was so useful for me, and it's so useful for other teachers. Doesn't matter which unit it is, but I got to tell what was working and what wasn't working. I No more history, no more vocabulary, no more guided notes, or more guided notes, or less exit tickets and more projects. That's the way to understand. The other thing is anticipating. The more you anticipate, the more you anticipate, the easier your life will be. So one of the biggest things, negative, if it's 3 minus 2x parentheses, 3x minus y minus 2y, right? If they have, this is an expression, there's no equal sign, they just have to simplify. Students will do this. It'd be 3 minus 6x minus 2y, right? Minus 6y. Oh, sorry, minus 4y. They won't know that this minus has to go to both, and it's going to be a plus 4y. So if you can anticipate that error, your life's going to be so easy. You'll know the mistakes students make. So it's not bringing the minus sign with it for distribute always happens. Another mistake is it's 3x squared y to the fourth to the second power. A lot of students are going to write 9x to the fourth y to the 16th, but x to the sixth. They might multiply this one instead of adding because this gets multiplied and that gets multiplied. Well, I did this one all wrong. Sorry. We all make mistakes, right? So I said 3x squared y to the fourth squared. So a lot of times, boom, boom. So this is x to the fourth, y to the eighth. So they just multiply this, but this is not. Should be 3 squared. So it's 9x to the fourth, y to the eighth. You'll see all these mistakes. You will see them all as they're happening, and your job is to what? If you can anticipate it, you can plan for it, so you won't have to reteach it. Other reteaching strategies that I've always used is you start with confidence. Start with confidence. A lot of questions I do, it's like, draw a square. Tell me everything you know about a square. Draw an angle. What do you know about an angle? Draw a plus sign. Tell me everything you know about it. We start with confidence, okay? That will give students a chance to make mistakes. And the last one I did before is you normalize those mistakes. You normalize them. I've done this before. You've seen that before when I went through everything, but if you forgot it, I'll just put a link to this discourse one. Discourse, because I made this entire discourse thing. Let's do normalize mistake making. So here's one where you can just normalize mistake making. Well, where's the other session? Well, I could just go here. So if you didn't do this one, normalize making mistakes is probably like one of the biggest things. But we can just show that mistakes are made for, you can use the mistakes as a point where they're actually learning. If you do that, you're going to be good. I know it's in one of the videos above it, but if you didn't watch it, just let me know. You always just want to like recognize when you make mistakes, like I just did. Like I made a mistake in mine, but these are all good things you should think about. All right, so what are other good ways to reteach? We're going to look at this one about equity, accountability, and differentiation. So these are ways to promote equity, which are good, but we just kind of want to look at, and this is holding students accountable, but differentiation, right? So to differentiate will be a really good way to help students who didn't get it the first time. Sometimes students can't get it the first time. You got to be like, that's okay. Not getting it the first time means you're learning. It means you're trying. So you should always be able to differentiate with either different lengths of problems. You can give them like an easy one and a hard one. You could have rookie, medium, challenging, like I showed you with the grab bag. You can do stuff in different modalities, like I showed above. You can give different leveled problems. So differentiation is probably one of the biggest things for your students. Don't treat them all the same. They might all be in the same class. You can't treat them all the same. They're all going to learn differently. So that's why reteaching is really important. So I hope this was useful. I know I just kind of went like on a big rant. Let me just find this normalized mistake making before I get all angry about it and throw it in there. But I hope this was useful. Um, Here it is, session 3. Oh, she took mine and changed it? Okay, well. Yeah, so here's the video. U cubed mistakes are powerful. It's really good. Yeah, I didn't run this one, but she just took my name off it. So this is the one. You could watch this video and think about how to normalize mistakes in your own class. So here we go. I just kind of wanted you to see the video, but I know it's in there somewhere. Cool. All right, well, I hope this was useful, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions.